Well, hi Janelle, your painted color wheel looks quite good. Let's see, maybe there could be more variation in the reds and perhaps the greens, and it might be that yellow looks quite a lot different from yellow orange and yellow green, so the interval might be adjusted there. One last thing, for your best blue, mix cerulean with ultramarine. Now, the digital color wheel. A color wheel is easiest to understand if the ends meet. And I do see cyan here, which suggests to me that you're working with the digital colors, but the layout is not very clear. Um, I do notice that you've got some colors that aren't fully saturated. For example, there's a tint of red in the top right. On the other hand, a lot of care was used in laying this out. The stars all placed corner to corner are attractive looking. Megan, your painted color wheel is looking nice. I noticed that your violets are good, which is something that's a little hard to achieve. Um, but your yellow looks muddy, and I wonder whether you just didn't have the best yellow to work with. Um, Another thing is for blue, mix ultramarine and cerulean together. Um, Greens are best made with cerulean, not ultramarine. Now, looking at your digital color wheel, it's reminding me of the example I made for you guys, the House of Color, and I'm wondering if that's how you went about making this. I checked your RGB values and they look quite good. The only thing I would say here is maybe spacing could be adjusted just a tad, but it does look like you were using the grid. Hillary, violets on your painted color wheel look quite good. Maybe there could be more variation in the reds, and perhaps green could be darker. Now onto your digital color wheel. Well, this looks quite good. Colors are almost all fully saturated, and the RGB values are good. However, every once in a while I don't see, well, for instance, the right RGB values for the ideal magenta. And you show a lot of control with the software, making an unusual design and one that's really entertaining. I'm seeing the first snowflakes today here. Hello, Cedric. Looking at your painted color wheel, well, I think the blue was problematic. It seems like a gray blue, and that would keep you from getting a good green or good violet. Now, let's take a look at the yellow. Notice how that stands out next to its immediate neighbors. Let's think about making yellow green. If you want to mix a color, start with a lighter of the ingredients and add, in this case, just a touch of blue at a time until you get what you need. Let's take a look at the digital color wheel next. This is a beautiful painterly solution, and I really do like it. However, if we compare it to the digital color wheel down there in the bottom right next to your work here, we can see that we're looking for certain relationships like red opposite cyan and magenta opposite green. Actually, magenta and green are roughly opposite, but we don't have an ideal magenta in your color wheel here. Take a look at those RGB values that were given in the announcement, the drafts review, and also in the assignment, and see if you can watch the lesson that shows how you can type those numbers in or sample from an existing color wheel and get the colors just right. Well, hi Cheryl, this is a neat job on your painted color wheel. I'm looking at this and thinking that maybe your yellow was leaning a little in the direction of orange. To get the best greens, it's helpful to have a lemon yellow color. Also, for making blue, mix cerulean and ultramarine together. Do you think maybe the greens could be more different? The yellow green leaning more toward yellow and the blue green more toward blue. Now the digital color wheel, what a lovely layout, and a lot of care went into making this. The only little shortcoming is I don't see ideal RGB values for your primaries and secondaries. Hi Renee, this is a nice looking painted color wheel. Let's see, if I had any little piece of advice to give, it might be maybe the blue-green could have a bit more blue in it. Now, the digital color wheel looks right on. Your RGB values are good, And I guess we've got a flower piece wheel. It's a fun idea. Hi, Crystal, looking at your painted color wheel. Well, maybe the violets are all quite dark and similar too. Add a tiny touch of white to colors with ultramarine to reveal the hue. Now, I don't think you had the right blue for mixing greens. You need a blue that's leaning in the direction of greens, such as cerulean. Onto your digital color wheel. Well, the layout is right. However, you don't have ideal RGB values. Also, while the spacing is generally okay, the expectation for exacting placement and arrangement in a digital file is quite high. Well, Joe, your painted color wheel was assembled with a lot of care, I can see. You know, with violets, add a tiny touch of white to reveal the hue. With green, well, maybe you needed cerulean. Also, I think with blue-green, you need more blue, and with yellow-green, you need more yellow there. Whoa, this is an amazing digital color wheel. It doesn't feel exactly like a wheel. However, I do find the RGB values I'm looking for your primaries and secondaries. Hi, Kathleen, taking a look at your painted color wheel. Well, I like your blue, for example. Um, let's see, the violets, they're all looking dark. It's hard to distinguish between one and another. Take a tiny touch of white and mix it into your violets to reveal the hue. Also with greens, make sure to use cerulean versus ultramarine. Maybe in those reds or oranges, there could be a little more variation. Now, your digital color wheel, well, this is really delightful. You have the RGB values right on. Um, hats off to you. Nice job there. I guess if I had any little suggestion, it might be to add a glint of light to are those um, splotches of paint, so that they seem to shine a little bit like the text do. In other words, a little shape of white inside the shape of color could suggest that this was wet, shiny paint. Hi, Lana, looking at your painted color wheel. Well, maybe you've added a little more white than was needed for your violet and red violet. Those colors are looking like tints, and the idea is just to add the tiniest touch to reveal the hue. Also, blue violet is looking like a gray. I wonder what's going on there. Maybe you don't have the right blue or the right red. Um, what more? Maybe there could be a little more variation in the reds. Now, onto the digital color wheel. Well, your RGB values are pretty good. Um, I find the exact colors in most cases. Maybe green would be one to check. Also, I wonder about yellow and magenta and whether there's a way to make those two colors stand out since they are primaries or secondaries. Hello, Patricia. There's a nice interval between the colors on your painted color wheel. Now, looking to the digital one, well, your RGB values for the primaries and secondaries are all right on, but I'd like you to check the others, particularly in the violets. Some of those are shades, and we wanted every color here to be fully saturated. And one last thing is, I'm looking at these shape sets, and I'm wondering whether the spacing between the large shapes, for instance, could be a little more even. Is the gap between each large shape and its neighbor the same? This is an instance where the grid, guides, or even snapping could help you out.